I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you, which if you're unfamiliar with this series is where I wrap up my last 7 days worth of reading. This is my reading week from the 11th until the 17th of June. I read a total of 14 books. 3 are children's picture books, which I will not be talking about in this video, but their stats are included in here. They'll be reviewed closer to their release date at the end of the month. Collectively, I read 2,254 pages and my yearly reading total is 284 books. It was the Queer Romance Readathon week, although I have to admit I was just picking up queer books for the most part rather than trying to fit anything to prompts. So I've done the best I can and I'm looking forward to talking about what I have read. First of all, I do need to shout out Megan, who is a recent to my channel. She is an absolute darling, and while she does have a YouTube channel, she does talk about how she doesn't update that very often anymore, but she is very active on Instagram, so I'll leave her link down below. And of course, if you are interested in memberships for my channel, all of those details, all of those are on my landing page for the YouTube channel, so you can definitely check them out. We're going to kick things off. The first book that I read this week, or finished this week, was Two Rogues Make a Right by Sebastian. I have a complete vlog on reading the Sebastian books that I read last weekend, including this book, so I will leave that linked on the screen. This is an historical romance. It's a childhood friends to lovers story as well, and the two main characters, one is dealing with a chronic illness, the other is dealing with PTSD from being in the Navy and being assaulted while in the Navy, and they're basically nursing each other back to health for various reasons. So it is a great story. I really enjoyed it, and I didn't realise at the time that this had demisexual representation, which was top-notch. Great story, well worth reading. I think it was my favourite of the 3 that I read in that reading vlog. I also read a non-fiction title. This is for work. It's called Spelling It Out by Misty Adoniou. Misty Adoniou is a literacy researcher here in Australia. She's based in Canberra. And this is all about spelling and the history of spelling, how it came about and why it's so difficult to teach. And it proposes some opportunities and ideas for how to teach it more successfully, including teaching kids the morphology and the etymology of words, which you would think would be basic knowledge, but is not. It's not always taught in teachers college or teachers university degrees. So this was super short, but a very, very interesting and very easy read. One that I have been waving at people at work for the last 5 days. And I'm pleasantly surprised that I remembered to bring it back home for this video, to be honest. I also had to read the next 2 books for the Hidden Legacies read-along that I'm doing with Megan, Heather and Izzy. So we were finishing off book 3, which is Wildfire, and then the novella 3.5, which is Diamond Fire. We have already done the live show. I will leave that linked on the screen as well for anyone who missed it. Wildfire is the conclusion to Nevada and Rogan's arc in this story. They do pop up in the next books as well. Nevada is hired to investigate the disappearance of Rogan's ex-fiance's husband. Not complicated at all. And it is just fantastic. Diamond Fire is the bridging novella between Nevada's series and Catalina's series. So this one we see Catalina come into her own and solving a mystery on her own, as she is also trying to coordinate and organize Nevada and Rogan's wedding. We talked about in the live show that these are basically 6-star reads for all of us because they are just fun and entertaining. There is not a single major side character in this book that I don't adore with all my being and would read multiple books about them. I could just spend forever reading these books, and they're honestly bringing me so much joy, and to have people to talk about them with is delightful. Then moving into some of the other titles, I had quite a few Annabeth Albert titles to read this week. She does write romance. I've been reading her for years. I read the 2nd and 3rd book in her Portland Heat series. These are novellas. I happen to have them in a bundle. I think the bundle is called Bundled Up, and it has the first 3 books in the series. So the 2 that I read this week were Baked Fresh, which is Vic and Robin's romance. They meet while they're volunteering at a homeless shelter, and this one deals with them having to navigate feelings and a potential relationship amid supporting other people through addiction and loss and grief. So there is mentions of drug use on page. There is an overdose and the death of someone from that overdose, as well as mentions of the fact that one of the heroes is an alcoholic in recovery. So there are some very heavy things that come up in this novella, but it was a really great read as they had to sort of navigate how they build a relationship under really tough circumstances. Then the third novella in that collection was Delivered Fast. This is Lance and Chris's romance, and it is an age gap romance between someone who owns a coffee shop and the person who delivers the baked goods to said coffee shop. And they sort of have this moment where they are forced together when there is a plumbing accident. You have a total grumpy sunshine dynamic. The one thing that bothered me a little bit in this is you had the older character who was determined to sacrifice their relationship for the sake of the younger one so that they could go off and live their dreams. But I liked the conversation that they then had around that it wasn't okay for him to make that choice. So the thing that annoyed me also had a component of it that I really liked. Then I picked up Being Hospitable, and this is Desert Rose Hookups 1. This is a sapphic novella. It is between Kiki and Charlie, and Kiki has agreed to let her best friend's younger sister come and stay in her spare bedroom because Charlie is going to school somewhere in the area. And it's supposed to only be a 6-month thing. However, we find out very quickly that Charlie has had a massive crush on Kiki for years, and she sees this as her opportunity to see if she can make something happen between the two of them. So there's a lot of flirting, a lot of fun, bantery type stuff going on. It was gorgeous. I loved it. Then I picked up Leo Loves Aries by Anyta Sunday. This is another book that I've had sitting on my Kindle for ages and I've been meaning to pick it up. It is about Theo and Jamie. It is a slow burn romance, kind of friends to lovers. You have Theo who lives with his sister and they need to find a roommate for their place. And so they end up offering it to Jamie, who happens to be a teacher's assistant or something at the college where Theo goes to school. Theo and his sister also need dates to the wedding of their former partners who have become engaged to each other, and they've been invited to the wedding and they don't want to turn up without partners, so they're trying to find the perfect person for each other. And at the beginning of the book, Theo doesn't realize that he is bisexual, and so it is the slow awareness of him becoming aware of Jamie and the fact that Jamie really likes him, to the point where Theo tries to set Jamie up with his sister. This was a really cute, fun little story, and I'd be interested in reading some of the other books. This hit a lot of my favorite tropes like forced proximity and all of that sort of thing, but I also liked that Theo's sister is visually impaired, and so that informed a lot of what happened in the story, and you see how the characters work with her to make sure that she is safe in the spaces where she is. It was nice to see that represented in a book because I don't often see visually impaired characters. Then I read 4-Letter Word by Ava Freeman. This is another sapphic novella. This is a co-workers / friends to lovers story, and Anae and Maya have to work out whether they actually have this attraction to each other and whether or not it's something that they can pursue, and there's a few things that are thrown up. The sort of third act breakup in this one bothered me a little bit just because the story was so short and it didn't really seem to serve a purpose, but aside from that, the story was fairly sweet and enjoyable. I also read Going Public by Hudson Lynn. This is the second book in the Jade Harbour Capital series, and I cannot tell you how many times it took me to get that series name out. It is the relationship between Raymond and Elvin. This is a boss and assistant romance. It is MM. This one was sold to me because one of the characters is demisexual, and I knew going into it that the person who'd recommended said it was an okay book, but it had demisexual rep. So I was optimistic, and I did enjoy aspects of it until we sort of got into the last third of the book, because these two work in a firm that deals with, I think it might be like venture capitalism. I don't really understand that side of it. That side of business is not my forte. Anyway, they're looking over one of the assets that they own and they find something really strange, and then suddenly there's a bit of a conspiracy going on, and like parts of it were great, parts of it were not. I did really like the relationship between the two of them, but also, you know, there is a bit of an imbalance in the relationship because Elvin has basically made himself indispensable to Raymond. It was weird because I enjoyed it, but it also wasn't my favorite read. And it's been a while since I've had a read since I've read a book like that, so I'm not articulating myself very well. And then the final book I read was another Annabeth Albert one. This was Save the Date. This was a collaboration with Wendy Qualls. This is an MM romance about two guys, Randall and Hunter, who hook up at a bar one night, and then the very next day they realize that they are the man of honor and the best man in a wedding, and suddenly they're thrown together for 4 days, forced proximity situation, and they're having to deal with the fallout of their one night stand and whether or not they actually have feelings for one another. This one I found very short, very entertaining, very quick to get to, and very low angst, which I appreciated at the end of the week. So those are all the books that I have read this week. In the comments, I would love to know if you have read any of them or if you are planning on picking any others up. Again, if you have any queer romance recommendations for me, please let me know down below. As I said, while I am trying to get through the backlog, I am making notes of things that I want to read in the future. So if you've read anything great for the Queer Romance Readathon, please tell me about it. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave some kind of baked goods emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.